Hello Internet, and welcome to the Collective Arcana. We're a channel all about tabletop gaming, and today we're going to be doing a slight interruption to our classes of Pathfinder 2nd Edition series to talk about stealth in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Rogue is next on the docket for the classes, so it seemed pretty appropriate. And so we're going to go ahead and just talk for a little bit about it. It can seem a little complicated for some people, so we just wanted to give a quick little rough tutorial like we did with the spellcasting, the familiars, and the animal companions so far. But hey, before we get started, you down there, right below here, go ahead and hit subscribe for us. Maybe throw us a like. Definitely, leave us a comment if you like what we're doing. Or if there's anything you want to see us do after this and, in addition to the class videos. We really do appreciate the feedback, and we definitely appreciate the likes and subscribes. It helps the channel out so much. So please go ahead and take care of that. We really appreciate it. So without further ado, let's jump into stealth in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So stealth can seem a little complicated depending on which system you might be coming from. It's definitely probably going to jam you up if you just go in assuming it's going to play just like, 5th edition or Pathfinder 1st edition, whichever one of those you're coming from. Or certainly any other games that are not D20 or based on 3.5 like Pathfinder 1 and 2 and D&D 5th edition. So with that said, it's really not too complicated. There's really only three conditions you can have, or three stealth statuses that you can have. You can be observed, which means that a creature is aware of your exact location. You can be hidden, which means the creature knows your location, but can't actually see you. So, observed, they're like, oh, he's right there. Hidden, they're like, I know he's in that bush. And then the final version is undetected. Now, that doesn't mean that they have no idea that you're around. It just means that they have no idea where you are. So they're like, somebody's in here, but I don't know where. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. I've got a nice little setup here from Roll20, actually, just to sort of maybe give you a visual guide as we move through it. So before we get to that, though, let's talk about how you become hidden. So the hide action allows you to huddle behind some sort of object or other obfuscation, something that prevents things from looking right at you. Could be a bush, could be a building, could be, whatever. Could be a magical illusion of a minotaur, whatever. Just get behind something. That's what you're rolling to do. It's a single action activity, and anyone can do it, trained or not. Your GM will roll that stealth check, not you. It's more fun that way, It's really fun when somebody thinks they're hidden and they're not. So the GM will roll that in secret. Of course, sometimes your GM may just, if it's low stakes or, something like that, or just they don't want to keep track of it, they may let you roll your own. That's whatever, Pathfinder 2nd Edition. There's a lot of suggested secret rolls, but it's always going to come down to the table, how you actually want to handle those. I think it's super fun. Not everyone does. Do what works for you. Anyway, so so you're going to have that your GM will roll your stealth check against the perception DCs of everyone who had observed you. So everyone that you were observed against, they will roll that. Of course, they're not going to roll it individually. They'll probably roll one stealth for you compared to the perception DCs of everybody. The perception DC, if you're not familiar, it's very much like a passive perception in D&D 5th edition. What it is it's just the perception modifier plus 10, sort of like how your AC is your dexterity, your item bonus from armor, blah, 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 plus 10. It's almost like an opposed check, but you assume you took a 10. Pathfinder 2nd Edition uses that for all sorts of things. You generally, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, to my knowledge, there's not really any instance of opposed dice rolls. That's to keep things smooth, streamlined, and fast. You will almost always just use a DC with the person taking the action making the roll. So the GM, like I said, will compare that roll versus the perception DCs of anything that had observed you. And And as long as you are hiding into an area that has some sort of cover or greater cover that you can duck behind. And what's fun is you actually get to add that cover or greater cover bonus that you would normally be added to your defenses or whatever to this save. So the bigger the thing you're hiding behind, the better chance you're going to succeed at this stealth check, which is, makes perfect sense and is, fun because it might motivate you to not just try to hide behind a stool. So you succeed. What happens? Well, to every creature that you succeeded against, you are going to become hidden. That means, as we said at the top, they know where you are, but they don't know, they don't have line of sight on you. They don't know exactly where you are. It's sort of like, oh, he went around that corner, or, I saw him duck behind that, or duck under that table. So they know where you are. They'll have to go investigate or spend an action to search for you. So seek is the action in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So until they do that, you are, very difficult to target. They'll still know this, technically speaking, they'll still know the square that you are in. And they can still make attacks, but they will have a mischance against you, just because they can't actually draw a line of sight to you. While you are hidden, you can hide. That's just in case something changes, some circumstance changes on the battlefield, and you need to re-hide. So maybe somebody else shows up and you want to make sure that you're hidden from them, or some sort of spell effect goes off that you think may have hindered your ability to be hidden. Whatever. So you can always re-roll that hide check. You can do a sneak action. Sneak action is where it's at. Or you can step. Step is just a 5-foot step in other editions of the game. Does take your action. It's not a free action. But just taking a step will permit you to, you do not have to re-stealth unless you break that cover, unless you, lose the thing that's blocking the line of sight. So that can be pretty handy. That's a great way just to, if you don't want to go too far, but you want to make it so that they can't just target your square and hope that the dice favor them. Once you stealth, you can just take that step. You can also strike while hidden. However, immediately after that action resolves, then you will become no longer hidden. So those are the actions that you can take. Any other actions that you take will end your stealth, your hidden status, before you take them. Like it's almost like an interrupt. Like as soon as you cast a spell, whatever it is, you are no longer hidden. Now, specifically, your GM may allow you to cast spells that do not provoke sounds, that do not have a verbal component, or that, are not sufficiently flashy. That's going to be up to your GM to decide what you can do. So don't assume, just say, hey, GM, what I know of casting this spell would break my stealth. If it's got a verbal component, almost certainly yes. If not, and it's not hostile, you're not attacking anyone or causing any huge dramatic effects, then your GM may allow it. But again, anything besides the hide, sneak, and step, you will immediately no longer be hidden. Additionally, the strike, you will cease to be hidden, but after the attack resolves. So that allows you to, attack flat-footed, very handy for rogues. But as soon as that is resolved, you are, of course, observed. What if you fail that hide or that stealth check? Well, you still have cover, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So as I said, while you're hidden, a target or an enemy may attempt to seek. It's a single action. Eat up their actions, take that. Where they get to roll their perception against your stealth DC. So this is not like other systems where you roll that stealth check, you roll really high, and you are totally, totally hidden. Because that will just get you hidden initially. You don't get to keep that stealth roll throughout the entire event. Once they're actually looking for you, then they're the ones taking the action. The onus is on them to roll, and they roll against your DC. Again, not really any instances of direct opposed rolls in Pathfinder 2nd Edition to smooth things out, speed them up, and just in general keep the game moving. When you take the seek action, you can look in a 30-foot cone, so you can direct it. Your GM may ask you roll to, have them look. But if they saw you duck behind there, they're probably going to look where they saw you duck behind. That's why it's great to move, to use the sneak action, which we will get to after you've hidden yourself. Because then, if you move more than outside of that 30-foot cone, they have no idea where you're at. But so they can do the 30-foot cone, or they can do a 15-foot burst. So if you're really trying to sneak up on them and you're close, they can search anywhere within 15 feet. Again, they have to choose, am I seeking in a cone or am I seeking in that burst? So, you still might be able to get the slip. If they critically succeed on that check, you become observed. Doesn't matter how good your hidden status is, you become observed. So it doesn't matter what you're behind or anything like that. They're like, oh, he's right there. If they just succeed and you were only hidden, remember we talked about the 3 stages, and you were only hidden, you're also still observed. They know where you are. But if you were undetected and they succeed, you still remain hidden. So, how do we get undetected? All right, that sounds like where the action is. That's where the sneak action comes in. So the sneak action can be used both while you're already hidden or while you are not and you're just moving to where you want to be hidden. So the sneak action by default allows you to stride up to half your movement and then roll a stealth check for where you end up. Again, your GM will roll that check against the passive perception DCs of anyone who had observed you. Keep in mind, if you were in some way unobservable because you were invisible or the creature observing you is blinded, for example, and has no other senses that it can use, then even if you critically fail, it's still just a failure. And even if you lose your cover along the way, you will still get to roll that stealth check at the end of your movement. It's a niche case, but definitely something that does happen and will happen, especially as the levels start to go up. So on this stealth check, just like before, as long as you maintain cover throughout your entire movement, then you get to add that cover bonus to your stealth check. If at any point you lose that cover, or greater cover goes down to regular cover, etc. If at any point in the movement you are completely without cover against an observer, you don't get that cover bonus. But if you stay behind that cover the whole time, so, for example, you're moving along a wall the entire time, great. If there's a gap in that wall and you cross that gap, you don't get that cover bonus because at some point they had a chance to see you without it. So there's not really a critical success here, other than, of course, it, definitely making sure that you succeed. But when you succeed, you become undetected from anything that had been observing you, because now not only can they not see you, they also don't know where you are. They may still think that you're in that one spot, have no idea that you're over to the side. And we'll get to that in just a moment with our little diagram that I'm going to show. If you fail this check, you still remain hidden. They still, don't know exactly, or they still cannot see you. They just know that you're over there. Maybe you snapped a twig, whatever it is, whatever trope you want to go with, tripped and fell, whatever. But you've made some noise or otherwise given your position away. But you're still hidden, so not the worst thing. On a critical failure, you are observed. Like, right there. There's that rogue. Going back to that invisibility or otherwise unobservable caveat, if you are somehow magically not able to be observed, you remain hidden even on a critical failure. So stealth plus invisibility is pretty nice. And that's about the extent of it. Just like before, any action other than, stride, or not stride, but step, sneak, and another hide will force you to have to roll, or will force you out of stealth. You will no longer be undetected, or hidden or anything like that. You will become observed. Just like before, a strike will make you observed after it resolves. So that's how your rogues are going to be getting their sneak attack off, or just anybody who likes a flat-footed bonus but doesn't have an ally nearby. So once you are undetected, if a creature uses the seek action, you become only hidden on a success. So that's great. So again, they'll know that you're there, but not exactly, like, they won't actually be able to see you. So all that was pretty complicated sounding, right? The reality is, all you're doing is you're combining the hide action, which is stealthing in one place, that requires cover, or you're using the sneak action to get somewhere that has cover that you can hide behind, or just, breaking line of sight somehow, being somewhere that they cannot see you. So we're going to just go to this Roll20 setup just to sort of show you some of what that might look like if you're having trouble visualizing it just in theater of the mind kind of thing. So here you can see we have a few bad guys here in green. Maybe they're cultists, who knows. And then over here we have our player characters. We've got them color-coded for good visibility for themselves so that everyone can see where they are. That's just how I do it on Roll20. I'll have all my enemies one color, and then all of my heroes their own color just for maximum visibility. Now, so right now, let's say, we have ended exploration with the party here. No one has engaged anyone. No one is detected or anything. So we're still sort of in encounter mode is the way I might run this. Maybe they just want to overhear and see what they're talking about. Maybe they want to try to sneak into one of the tents and grab that. So, until they start rolling checks against each other, they are still in exploration mode, or, at least not in combat mode. So, we'll say this yellow token with the hood, that's our rogue. Right now, So right now, we might have to move everybody over just a little bit to justify. When I say that right now, no one has line of sight to any of our people, so I might ask them, okay, you've snuck up to the tent, you've overheard the conversations, what would you like to do? Now, before they begin doing combat, they may want to reposition themselves, especially this rogue. So maybe this rogue will want to try to get as close as they can with partial cover. Let's go ahead and send this to the back. Should have done that earlier. I do apologize. Okay, so maybe the rogue will want to just sneak up here to this target. That's going to initiate combat immediately because he's putting himself in a situation where he could be observed by this. But let's say I'm a kind GM and he wants to try to get over to this other tent right here before combat begins. Well, then I would have him roll. He would pass right about here. He would be visible to this target. Right about here, he would be visible to this target. And pretty much the whole way, he's going to be visible to this target. Now, we're also going to assume that our rogue has the ability to move their full movement speed while sneaking, because otherwise this would be really problematic for them. But they do, so let's reward them for the feat, give them the chance. So I would have them roll their, or I would roll their stealth check against all three of these because, again, they had a chance to be observed. Now, narratively, if you weren't using a grid, if you were just doing theater of the mind, then you would just tell your player, hey, there's a lot of guys here. There's not a good place to hide your entire path to this other tent. So if you want to go try to rummage that other tent before they know that you're here, you're going to have to roll to stealth against all of them. But here we just have the grid so we can be sure who was seen. Whereas theater of the mind, of course, you're just going to sort of make that judgment call based on the scene that you're setting narratively. So we're not going to actually roll any dice here. We're going to just assume for the examples what went off without a hitch. So we'll say that this rogue was able to sneak. Got over there, remained not just hidden, but became undetected. Technically, everyone's already undetected, but so remained undetected over there, maybe sneaks into the tent, whatever. Rogue gets what he came for, and then let's go ahead and go back and see what happens next. So now this rogue wants to initiate combat. So what we would do in this case is we would have, he's been able to be sneaky. He knows that his friend, the red circle and blue circle, I didn't think about their classes, but red and blue are over there, and everybody's ready. He found out, this rogue found out, either what they're looking for is here, but can't take it out without getting caught, or for whatever reason, they want to engage. So we're going to engage. Now, Pathfinder 2nd Edition does not have surprise rounds, and we'll do a full deep dive into combat right now, but we're just talking about how stealth applies to combat. So the rogue says, well, they don't know I'm here. I'm going to shoot a crossbow before any of this goes down, see if we can start with an edge. Great. Unfortunately, Pathfinder 2nd Edition does not have technical surprise rounds. Now, narratively, you as a GM or, your GM, the GM may decide, yeah, let's do a surprise round. That's fine if the GM doesn't care how difficult an encounter is or, maybe has planned that into the encounter to make sure that it's still challenging even with that. But a surprise round can be pretty brutal to the math in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and so they really sort of discourage it. Doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that the GM should be taking into account the challenge rating of the creatures before they do it, and the GM should be very, very wary. GMs, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, please listen to me. Be very, very wary. I get it, you want to do your own thing, but do not surprise round your players unless the creatures attacking them are very weak. It's a great way to elevate a trivial encounter and make it possibly be something more, but anything that's above trivial, I would be very hesitant in Pathfinder 2nd Edition to allow a surprise round on your party because that's a great way to get somebody killed. It's just a little bit more lethal, especially at lower levels than other games. We'll say that, it's time to, since there's no surprise round, the rogue still wants to do it. This rogue is going to use stealth for initiative instead of the usual perception, which is what is typically rolled for initiative. Now, a lot of classes or characters that invest their skill feats and skill points may get all sorts of bonuses for using skills other than perception as their initiative. Rogues certainly get some bonuses, one of them being the ability to... anyone is considered flat-footed if the rogue uses their stealth as initiative as opposed to perception. Anyone that the rogue beats on that initiative roll is flat-footed to that rogue, which means they're getting sneak attacked, which means they are 10% more likely to be hit or crit, which is huge. So, again, just for the example, we're going to do it. We're going to first assume that the rogue was successful. Say he beat everybody on initiative. Now this rogue, while still undetected because he used stealth, he can make attack rolls against flat-footed AC of any creature that he chooses to. He can also then, with the rest of his actions, attempt to hide again or sneak and become undetected again, which is a very roguey thing to do, especially depending on the type of rogue you're building. Good for anybody, really, if you happen to win on initiative, if you can get hidden again. As long as you don't mind them piling up on one of your allies, it's a great move. It's a great survival move. So we'll just assume that went off without a hitch on our little display here. Rogue was able to do his crossbow attack, and then snuck back over to here. And because he was never actually observed by this token, he gets to remain hidden there. And then, other initiative would go. They know something is up, so they may have to move over here because, again, they started undetected. So he may come over here and use a seek action to try to find the rogue, or may just do a seek action in general with a cone. Even though there is, for example, on this token here, there is line of sight broken by the tent, he can still attempt a seek action. So that's important to note, even though they are undetected and behind a tent. If he thinks, that people are behind the tents, they can look. With that, that's sort of how it would go if the rogue succeeded, or anybody succeeded. Theoretically, you would continue to make an attack, then move about and sneak, and just, keep doing that, keeping yourself safe while dealing your sneak attack as a rogue, or just attacking flat-footed as anybody. Now let's assume that the rogue failed. So, the rogue has failed. This unit has line of sight, so of course it can see for these. He was up here. For these, they would need to roll to locate the rogue, but the rogue is not. No one is undetected. If they went on perception, they know something is up. They just may not know what's going on. So they may be like, whether it's a twig snapped, whatever, they're going to start looking around, trying to figure out what's going on. And then your party that may be undetected will continue. Now let's do a little bit different. Now, let's say before combat began, before anything happened, the rogue decided to sneak around to the side and, just come up behind them while the party came forward. Maybe it was a situation where there's a hostage exchange or just some sort of parlay, but they think it might devolve into combat. Or maybe they just want to distract people, the targets, so that the rogue can sneak through the tents and find whatever MacGuffin they're looking for. In any case, our rogue may begin this social encounter, what starts as a social encounter, completely separate from the party. All the attention of these figures are up here. Maybe, of course, passive deception, deception DC, or perception DC. The rogue is still going to be rolling against them. Undetected or not, he still will have to roll those stealth checks, unless he's using only sneak actions, steps, or hides. So, rogue might rummage through this tent, and then might want to move through here. Just like before, at some point along that movement, he will run the risk of being in line of sight of all these, so he will roll his stealth. Because he was not behind cover at some point in that stealth, he's going to not get the cover bonus. Now, if the rogue began here and decided, I've got a better shot, or whatever, I want to come around here instead of coming around the back, which is the whole point. I want to come around this way. So the rogue could move at any point through over here and still have some bit of cover, up to here even, and have total not concealment, but total cover, and keep that cover bonus to the stealth checks throughout. So that's really about it. If you have any other questions about stealth, as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. Just the 3 levels. Are you observed? Are you, such as these? Are you hidden, such as the rogue? He's got something that he took cover behind, and he's rolled a stealth, so he is hidden. And then, if he sneaks further, or they otherwise have never known that he was there, then he gets to remain unobserved. Oh, real quick. So, let's say maybe the rogue did start visible to everyone, totally out in the open, and then the rogue wins on initiative, or just otherwise decides to break away and go try to hide. Then he would begin observed by everyone, and then he would move over here, about half his movement, and roll a stealth, or the GM would roll the stealth check to see if he can become hidden. Now, they all know that he's there, but he could spend his next action to sneak. And then he could come around here, and then he's now in a position where he can sneak attack all of them. He may decide to wait until his next turn. He may even attempt to do another real quick run so that they really have no idea where he is, and he can really come at them from an unsuspected angle. So that's it. Sorry about that. That was an important bit I wanted to show you. So that's really it. That is Stealth in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You're going to see, that it can seem complicated if you're just reading through the rules. That's kind of why I wanted to show you that it's really just, was I seen? Was I not seen? Did I pass an area where I could have been seen? Or did I spend my entire time where I couldn't be seen? That's really the only questions you're asking. Despite all of the mechanics, the movement speed and things like that, it can play out very well and very straightforward, even in Theater of the Mind type games. So if you're not using Roll20 or minis or maps at all, it's still pretty straightforward. As a GM, as always, if you're playing Theater of the Mind, you want to make sure that you're giving fair warning to your players. If the player says, I just want to sneak over and get into the other tent, and you know that based on how you're picturing the scene, that they're going to be crossing an open field and possibly be observed by several people, let them know. That's very important. And if you're a rogue sneaking, don't assume that you can just go over there. I just told the GMs to warn you, but don't assume. If they don't warn you, always ask. Say, hey, if I sneak over there, am I going to have to, roll stealth against everybody? Am I going to keep my cover the whole time? Are there some people that will just never really get to see me? So, how does that work? What's going on? One more thing to note really quick, back down at the map. If, for whatever reason, the rogue ran out of movement speed, maybe there was some hindering terrain, something the rogue wasn't expecting, or just didn't calculate their movement well, and the rogue ends their movement observed, then that's it. They've ended their movement without any sort of cover. So they are going to need to. They are going to be observed. They stopped their turn, their movement out in the open. They need to always end where they cannot be seen. Now, it's certainly possible that they may be seen by certain enemies and not others. So he may be over here and seen by this target and not these two targets, in which case only this creature would know. But on this creature's turn, he could always alert his allies, and then they would know, oh, somebody over there, let me go look, and then either get line of sight, or just see if they can spot them if they've got some other concept, maybe these enemies can just pop a fireball over there and just, that's dangerous, don't pop a fireball at a stealth target unless you know where they're at. Anyway, so that's the gist of it. Again, if you have any questions down there, definitely let me know. But as you can see, there's just 3 stages. There's a whole lot of specific things that won't come up every time, especially at lower levels. And if they are coming up, they should be things that like invisibility or things like that your GM is going to know will be affecting things. Keep in mind that there are precise scents that are not vision. Some creatures might have heat vision or might have some other sort of precise scent. That's the only one I can think of right now, but I'm sure there are others. They also may have an imprecise sense like scent or tremor sense, in which case they could spot you even if you're hidden and quiet. They may still feel vibrations and things like that. There is a great skill feat, foil senses, that will allow you to bypass that, as well as some spells and items that will prevent it. But all gets pretty situational, and theoretically if somebody is casting a spell or you're fighting something that has that, hopefully the GM will have read it in the stat block, or the person using the spell will have been prepared with how that will affect. But no magic, standard encounter. That's pretty much stealth. So again, if there's anything else that you have questions about, whether it's stealth specifically or some other video like this that you want us to do to sort of give you a rough and tumble sort of view on how something works in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, or something really nitty-gritty, really specific, definitely down in the comments, let us know. And thank you guys so much for watching. I know I rambled a little bit. I just sort of wanted to cover all my bases here. So thanks so much again. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate those subscriptions and things as well. Welcome to the collective, and we'll see you next time. Bye.